All right, interpersonal boundaries in the GP team. Hello, GPNI and others. Thanks for taking an interest in this boundary series we've been doing with the first 5 GPs. This one follows on from the previous video on limitations when we were really noticing that every day we get to decide what we will or won't do for the people that we meet. This one's more about your interpersonal boundaries in the practice. It's a really common thing that people bring to mentoring and coaching. So, how are your boundaries? Do you feel compelled to do what others want you to do, even though it's not what you want? When you consider setting boundaries, do you feel guilty or selfish or afraid, or do you worry that you might hurt others? Here's my big quote for you today. Tony Gaskin says, "You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce." So good boundaries are like a nice garden fence, if you imagine it. Nice height, not too high, not like a massive wall that you can't get past, but they very clearly show this is my side, this is what I'm responsible for, and this is what I am not responsible for. And of course, those fences may have spikes on top, whereby if you try and cross them, you will get a sharp spike to the groin and it will hurt. Um, they also may have a gate in them so that you can open that gate if you choose to do things differently and to let something in. You can do it, but the main point is they're going to keep the good stuff inside. They're going to protect your kids, but they're going to keep the angry dog and the bad stuff outside. So that's what I imagine a good boundary looks like. Where do they come from? Obviously your history, your past, all those encounters you've had. I think back to my mom. My mom's got an incredible, compassionate, giving heart where she could literally sit for people with hours, and she just absorbs it, and she's very good like that. And it took me a long time to realize that I am not my mom. I don't have that same emotional capacity that she has. And all of our parents did the best in how they raised us, but we have to look out for what messages did we receive when we were very young. Was there a parent who let us have our own way all the time? Was there a parent who was overly controlling or strict, or one who maybe withdrew love and affection whenever we didn't do what they wanted? There are all sorts of things that kind of affect us as we're growing up that lead to classic boundary problems. There's four ones that I want to mention to you: people who are compliant, people who are controllers, people who are avoidant, and people who are non responsive. So, the first two of those, compliance and controllers, imagine the image of a boundary fence that's totally just been blown over by the wind. They're boundaryless at this stage. Compliance, they can't say no. No matter what people do, they say yes to the bad. They pretend to like things that they don't like. Controllers, on the other hand, are the ones who will just either by aggression or by manipulation and guilt, they will make you do what they want. They can't hear no. Avoidance are the people who can't hear yes. So they refuse to help. They'll give you 4 hours, but they struggle to even take 10 minutes of your time from you. And they actually need to take ownership for how they resist love and care. And then the fourth group are the non responsives. They're the ones who can't say yes. They just don't see or hear the needs of others, either because they're self absorbed or because it pains them to see the pain of others, and points to what they're trying to hide within themselves. So if you think about those four types of people, I wonder what characters you have within your practice at the moment and what combinations are at play. If you imagine, for one example, a compliant with an aggressive controller, the compliant just doing everything that the controller wants them to do, the compliant really needs to see that they are not the victim in that situation. They are volunteering their power. That's the way that compliance control people, by pleasing them and hope that others will change their behavior. We need to notice if we're giving to the point of resentment. The other person is not responsible for our limits. We are ourselves. We can only change ourselves. And of course, the aggressive controller has their part to play. They need to realize what they're doing and accept the limits of others. And a new relationship can be negotiated. As you look at your practice team, you need to understand your power, understand the power dynamics at play. Author Pete Scazzero says, "We are most at risk of ethical misconduct when we minimize or ignore our power. So power is like your capacity to influence. But it's interesting, within our practice teams, we'll often have people around us who are, we're their boss, we're also their friend, and we're also their doctor. And that can create a lot of problems. Now, of course, there's sometimes the power dynamics are reversed and they're very different, but some practices that seems to work well, but it always works well until things start to go badly, and then you lose trust. So who gets the promotion? Who gets the corner office? Who gets the training? You know, friendships work best whenever people are equal. They choose each other. They're reciprocal. People can make disclosures, but deep hurts can come when we fail to recognize what power dynamics are at play. So we need to monitor dual relationship. Just be careful about things like that, and yeah, release people kindly if necessary. So before I finish, I want to make two real quick points about how you could move forward with these things. The first is this: the law of sowing and reaping. Again, like those barbs on top of a fence, people need to be allowed to experience the consequences of their actions. If you imagine a family with a 28-year-old son who still lives with a mum and dad and keeps quitting his job before he's got another one lined up because he just doesn't like it, and the parents keep bailing them out, giving them money, that adult will never learn to move forward, to be more responsible. The most loving thing to do is to allow people to experience themselves the consequences of their own actions and their own behavior, rather than us taking it off them. People need to know that we respect ourselves, and that if they trespass, there will be consequences. And actually, that's the most compassionate thing to do, rather than to enable them. And my final point is, if you want to start working on your boundaries, good on you, but prepare for some pushback. People will likely react negatively. They like being able to push you about in some ways. So just be aware that that's a natural thing. And also, you will yourself have some internal pushback. It is very natural to start feeling guilt, to start feeling angry and resentful as you work on these things, you know, especially the guilt, that sense of internal condemnation. But just notice, am I just feeling bad because I'm crossing my own internal standard here, which actually is like a false guilt? Rejoice whenever you feel that. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm breaking through. I'm not just being a pushover anymore. Rejoice if you feel angry. You know, you've got a serious problem if you can't get angry whenever people are walking all over you. So that's maybe the right thing. That will not last forever. Once you establish your boundaries, the anger, frustration, the guilt, they will dissipate over time. So great. Again, thanks so much for listening. You know, our work it's about more than trying to avoid burnout. We want to thrive, and once we have these good boundaries in place, sure, we can choose to overrule them. We can choose to give a bit of extra time to that family in need, or, you know, to be over the top self-sacrificial in generosity to our partners. Feel that buzz. But if you're feeling resentment about it, you got to notice that sign there. You own your boundaries, they don't own you. I wish you well.